What's the one thing you can't have a complete home theater without? What device can take it to a whole new level when you're watching blockbusters or sci-fi movies, or when you're gaming? Well, of course, you've guessed it. I have a subwoofer on my table because it's truly irreplaceable if you're watching movies. Although a lot of people also listen to music when they have, for example, a triphonic setup or even a full home theater, 5.1 for 7 and so on. But of course, I don't recommend doing that because if I'm building a stereo system, I design it so that you don't need a bass machine, because with the front speakers, you'll get the maximum effect, maximum immersion, and you'll even be able to listen to rock and some really heavy instrumental songs. And why is that? Because it will be tuned perfectly and you won't need a sub. But nevertheless, this thing has its place, and today we're going to open it up, see how it's all packaged, and just talk about it in general, and we'll even get inside, because this is truly a bestseller. Not long ago, it cost around 50,000 rubles, and now it's less than 40,000, and we'll talk about, together we'll figure out how, why, what's what, and how it all sounds, and whether you should buy it. Let's go. Of course, you've probably noticed on our 4K recording that we have a Premiera. It's a Russian brand that was made, well, developed in Russia. Of course, I wish they were assembled in Russia, but I'm afraid the price would be significantly higher then because, well, we just can't beat China. By the way, have you seen my video from the Tone Winner factory? Well, then you understand just how serious things are over there. But for now, we're taking out the DS-10SA. The 10 in the name tells us that the driver will most likely be 10 inches. Right, friends? Yes. That's right. Okay, I got it out by myself without any problems. So if you don't have any helpers, you'll be able to take it out of the box and consequently connect it without any trouble. I'll show you how right now, in case you don't know. I remember when I was taking out my own SVS PB16 Ultra. Well, that was just insane. By the way, that video is also on the channel. Ah, listen, it's a nice sub, huh? I've already installed them, and I'll tell you right now, I've personally sold and installed about 15 of these units. And, not a single one was returned. Not one person said that they didn't like something about it, that it sounded bad, and so on. The most interesting real-life story, I'll tell you quickly. I installed, as I recall, a mid-range line of Davis acoustics for some clients. Everything was fine. I set it up, we listened to it, everything was great, there was plenty of bass. But the client says, listen, there's not enough bass, like really not enough. I said, what do you mean not enough? It really sounds good. He says, no, it's not enough for me. I'm used to, a boombox where everything is just bass. He invited me to his car. I practically ran out of there because it was incredibly hard to listen to. The trunk lid was rattling, the low frequencies were just off the charts. That's when I realized that, well, of course, people like that, they're not used to listening to a proper sound presentation. It's like eating at McDonald's or Vikusno Aitoshka Burger King. If you're constantly eating that food for years, then a salad or some kind of haute cuisine will seem very bland and, well, uninteresting because your taste buds are practically burned out and you have to get used to it. It'll be a long, painful process, but of course it'll be the right thing to do for your body. It's the same here. The person unfortunately had gotten unused to a normal quality sound presentation. He didn't understand what a soundstage was. He just needed, deeper bass. Well, he had a minimal budget, so I recommended this sub to him. I came over, set it up, and that was it. No more questions. He said, yes, this is what I need. Well, it's still a little lacking in bass, of course, but, I'm ready. Yes, I understand what you're saying. I'll work on it. I'll get used to it. And by the way, I should give him a call. It's been about maybe half a year. Maybe he's turned it off completely because I'll be honest, the way the system was set up, well, for music, our device was definitely overkill because he only had 2 speakers. Of course, if you're building, I repeat, a dedicated home theater, then without this hero, we won't be able to assemble a proper system because we have this LFE input, low frequency effect, which is basically designed to handle those low frequency collisions in the soundtrack, whether it's earthquakes or, well, I don't know, some explosions, bombings, or when a plane flies by, and you're supposed to really feel that 3D effect because, of course, in a small room, this little sub will make your I don't know, armchair or even your sofa jump a little. But if you want to achieve super effects, then of course you need to choose something bigger. Although for Premiera, I know that this is their top of the line subwoofer, because you know they have the Eco series, which is quite good, super budget friendly, but it really performs very well for that specific price, because I'll say it again, the main indicator in my opinion is the price to quality ratio. And this Delta series, it already represents a kind of entry ticket into the world of hi-fi. And with things like this, you'll be able to experience truly good, high-quality sound. Now, pay attention. Since we've already turned the unit around to the back, you can see two bass reflex ports here. We'll see how they're implemented when we open it up. Here, we basically have only two inputs, a line input and the so-called LFE, which you'll connect to your receiver. There's also a volume control, which is quite well implemented. I much prefer a knob like this. It's more informative rather than buttons with a display. Crossover, you can set the cutoff here. If you have floor standing speakers like the 631, which I recently reviewed, you can easily, well, blend them at somewhere a little over 40 Hertz based on the systems I've set up. Again, I'm not a fan of building 2.1 systems, but if people really need it and you have these floor standing speakers, then you should set it somewhere around 50 plus or minus, and then you'll have a good high quality low bass component. And phase, by the way, notice that even on very expensive bass machines that cost significantly more, there's just a phase switch, 0 or 180. But here you can adjust it very smoothly down to the degree. This is an important thing because you see here Premiera is kind of helping us. In general, phase delays, the phase component plays a much bigger role in our evolution than, say, sound quality itself. Well, to put it simply, if you have phase problems, no matter how cool the speakers are, you won't like the sound. But if everything plays perfectly in sync, then you'll be able to hear the sound stage, and your brain will perceive everything, let's say, with great pleasure. And this little toggle switch will help you just forget about this unit. You connect it to your receiver or amplifier, and when it receives a signal, it will turn on and work. And accordingly, the power off button and of course the input for 220 volts and without grounding, my friends, just like in Japan. Another important thing, notice MMS, and here we have the outline of Moscow. So here we have, what is this symbol, friends? Write in the comments, which one do you like more, this one, or this one? Well, you know where they're from, right? Let's look at it from the front, but before that, let's of course take a look at its surface. It's this classic vinyl wrap. It looks like it's wood, but it's actually not. It's MDF with this kind of finish. By the way, it's a very smudge resistant item, so you can handle it without any problems, leaving your fingerprints, which won't be visible. This isn't a piano gloss finish, and it's extremely difficult to scratch. It's a must-have, a budget-friendly solution. I fell in love with this style probably about 20 years ago when Polk audio speakers, well, basically all their designs had this kind of look. I really don't like these things, and I always mention them. These are the mounts for the grills, for the mesh cover. Where is it, by the way? Ah, here it is. Should you take it off or not? Well, of course, you should take it off. Even though this is a low-frequency driver, it, of course, distributes energy completely differently than high-frequency and mid-frequency drivers. But for example, with this grill, you can easily assess. Oh, wait, my microphone is right here. I just wanted to say that when you talk like this versus like this, the difference is really significant for me. And of course, I generally recommend removing the grill on all speaker systems. But with a sub, it's not as critical because low frequency waves propagate in a completely different way. The company logo, it's kind of three-dimensional. You know, I like it, my friends. And of course, this little pedestal, this plate should have feet. Let's take a look at them. What do we have here? Here they are, 4 of them. Of course, if you install something like ISO Acoustics Gaia or something similar, you'll further increase the low frequency output. So should we open it up, or before that, should I tell you about the technical specifications? Well, 125 watts RMS. At its peak, I think it can even deliver 200 watts. It has, of course, a built-in Class D amplifier, high-quality MDF. According to the manufacturer, they specifically select this material. The shape is lute-like, just like the entire Delta series. Here, take a look at this. And why? So that again, diffraction is distributed and this energy is better dampened. Because if we take a regular rectangular cabinet, things will be a little different. And when vibrations occur, they will resonate more. But in this cabinet, they will be dampened better because of these rounded corners. Of course, the ideal option would be to have no corners at all. The Bowers and Wilkins 800 series, for example, are made from single sheets, and the only joint is here, but there are no corners or seams here. Well, here, of course, the solution is not of that level, but it also costs hundreds of times less, my friends. By the way, according to the manufacturer, Sonus Faber was the first to use this type of construction, this cabinet design. Whether that's true or not, again, let me know your opinion. 10 inches of long fiber cellulose-based material. The energy is just bursting out. I've got my screwdriver ready and... Wait, it's not working. Is the battery dead? No. I'm very curious what kind of driver they're using. Is it going to be a proprietary design or some no-name brand? But knowing Premiera, and I've opened up quite a few of them, they're usually pretty serious about their components. And of course, we'll take a look at the amplifier. The driver is heavy. Take a look at its quality, at its basket. Well, they could have made it look more brutal, but it is what it is. I don't really want to disconnect it. So right now, you and my camera operator can take a look inside and you'll see that very Class D amplifier. I'll just move this material out of the way a bit. 2 bass reflex ports, and they're rounded on the inside. That's very good, because I've seen much more expensive subs that just have a simple tube, and that has a very negative effect on the sound because it creates certain turbulences, and the sound comes out a little differently. The energy is released a little differently, and it's these little details that form the overall impression. Well, actually, there's not much else to see here. The walls for this price, and let's not forget it's just under 40,000 rubles, are good, they're decent. Here you see they've even glued 2 of them together. And in the end, yeah, what's the final verdict? The final verdict is you get decent bass for the money. The conclusion, who is this bass machine for? Well, it's for those people who are starting their journey into the world of hi-fi, because with it you can build a complete system based on the Delta series. That is no problem. Floor standing speakers, the Delta Premiera center channel, and for the rear speakers, also bookshelf speakers, either the 6th or the 5th series. And with our hero here, you get a complete home theater. Of course, you can add another sub later, for example, a 2nd, a 3rd, or even a 4th. Although I'm not a fan of subwoofer arrays, I've always believed, and in all the home theaters I've built, though many might argue with me, but again, you have to listen for yourself. When you install one, but a really great sub, you can get a real wow, wow, wow effect. Most people like to upsell you on a huge number of additional components, but not me. If you come to me, I always try to both build everything as well as possible, and at the same time, make sure it doesn't cost a fortune. Although, of course, I love premium stuff. There, you can really go all out and do everything just perfectly down to the wires, the vibration isolation, the room acoustics, and so on and so forth. But what we have here is a very inexpensive solution. You can add it if you're lacking bass in your stereo system. If you have a Premiera A3S or T3S at home, there's a separate subwoofer output. You just connect it and get more bass. People often watch movies on these kinds of 2.1 systems too. Of course, in that case, the immersion and sense of scale will be greater, but otherwise, even at a price of under 60,000, people were buying it. But now that it costs less than 40, brand new, with a 3-year warranty, well, what other options are there, really? It's just that the big name competitors, you know, the likes of Kiev or Dali or Canton, how much would they cost? Well, significantly more. But with this, you're getting a device from a serious company, MMS, because you know they also have a recording studio, a fully analog one. Everything is very serious there. JBL 4344s, Nordost cables. Again, someone wrote in the comments, oh, studios don't use high-end cables. Friends, of course they do. There you go. They use Valhalla in the studio, and everything is perfectly fine. So should you buy it or not? I've installed many of them. They don't break, and they're inexpensive. I can only recommend it. follow this QR code or the link in the description, because we have a Telegram channel and an excellent forum with some very serious specialists. You can always get advice from me or from them, or just have a nice chat. And we're on practically all social media platforms, even the banned ones, so you're more than welcome to join us and come to me for advice or to purchase some truly serious or even just inexpensive but very high quality items. I'm always happy to help.